Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
Redditors, have you ever been in a community so toxic you had to leave? If so, which one? Military spouse support groups. They get mean for no reason at all. Then they find out where your spouse works and try to get them into trouble with their first shirt. Edit, my bad y'all. First shirt is basically a glorified babysitter for their coworkers. They try to keep people in line like, don't drink and drive. Probably shouldn't marry someone you met 8 hours ago on a drunken binge. I'll go fill out paperwork and start cleaning things up and figure out who's taking care of your job since you decided going to jail was a good idea because you're a dumbass. That sort of thing, as well as daily random tasks. Yeah, I had to leave the dating over 30 subreddit. It's full of toxic advice and attitudes. Some very self-absorbed narcissists among them. Edit forgot to mention the relationship advice subreddit for the same reasons. Basically put me off modern day dating. My former mega church's praise music band. We performed in front of 2,500 people and there were always 4 to 8 singers on stage. It felt like I was on American Idol watching singers trying to outperform each other by who could sing the loudest with the most vibrato while raising their hands in the air. It wasn't toxic per se, but it was a negative part in my life. I used to have a friend group that never made me really happy. I never felt validated by them and became sad whenever I was around them. I love being around people and friends, and just knowing that having to leave them and get some friends that liked me more was scary, and I just didn't want to have to leave a bunch of friends that I had spent 3 years with. I found some really good friends now. I haven't really talked to my old friends. But life is a lot better now where I really feel like I belong with them. Eating disorder. Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. When I was younger, I made a private account as I was going through a difficult time and beginning to experience several mental health issues, one being an eating disorder. I followed similar accounts, however you quickly end up with people who are pro-Anna. Shared tips and just generally were also using their private account as their diary, but I guess it's just toxic when you're all in a bad place. I internalized all those messages, images and behaviors enforced by this community at such a fragile age that it's still stuck with me 7/8 of a year later. I don't blame that community for my ed, but it definitely made it worse, and I also saw it make it worse for others. Was raised Jehovah's Witness. Excommunicated at 17. Can I ask what it was like being raised as one? It's okay if you don't want to respond. I'm just curious. I can't speak for Op. But I can give you a few thoughts about my own experience. 1. The way I adapted, the way I looked at people who were not JW. Basically, you are told to be no part of the world and that non-JWs are worldly. But you are simultaneously told to be a representative of the truth, so you must be extremely friendly to all in the hopes they might be witnessed to and eventually convert. If they do not convert, they will die at Armageddon, which will be their final judgment, but if they die beforehand, they will be resurrected and given a second chance to convert afterwards. This creates a very difficult internal dilemma when I met people I liked. For me, I was either trying very hard to convert them or in a very fucked up way thinking that I hope they die before Armageddon so they get a chance to be resurrected. 2. Within the congregation there is the act of disfellowshipping, which basically is if you do something wrong, like have sex outside of marriage or smoke a cigarette, the elders of the congregation can disfellowship you. During which anyone outside of your immediate family is not allowed to talk to you, but you are expected to sit at the back of the congregation in public exile for an extended period of time, often 12 months from what I have seen, but varies wildly at the discretion. This is announced publicly to the congregation in a meeting you are expected to attend. Your family is given the opportunity to make the decision as to whether their conscience will make them cut off contact with you or not. Many families, or at least part of them, cut off or at least visibly reduce contact with you. It is at this point many people commit suicide, as the entire system of support and social network they have been trained to rely exclusively on is suddenly removed with no recourse, unless they were bad and made worldly friends, which if they knew about likely wouldn't help your chances at being reinstated. 3. No birthdays. Easter or Christmas's celebrations and having to avoid being involved in anything to do with them. At school or otherwise, even if it meant sitting in a classroom alone or with a teacher's aide doing a separate activity to the rest of the school. The first birthday I ever celebrated was my 21st. And the first I ever had a party for was 22. It took me a while to build up non-JW friends for a number of reasons. One being having a hard time finding common ground with normal people. 4. No participation in the national anthem or any activities considered nationalistic. Personally, this is one of the only things I actually still agree with because I think nationalism divides us as a human race, but that's another story. I could go on for a very long time and I haven't proofread this, so please let me know if there is anything I can clarify or add. More of an online community. It was a breastfeeding support group. As a first-time mom, I really wanted to learn about baby stuff, so I joined quite a few mom groups. The excessive superiority and self-righteousness of these purist breast as best advocates was bad. They would lambaste moms for offering formula milk to the babies. Some were so harsh that it was truly hurtful for the women asking for help, especially moms of newborns who are hormonal and sleep deprived. Found a different source of info instead and left that group. I am physically unable to breastfeed due to scar tissue. A physician, and the physician she sent me to for a second opinion, agreed that it's not possible. The breastfeeding specialist in the hospital, a registered nurse, not a volunteer, chided and shamed me because I obviously just didn't want to because it hurt. My protests that my OB and the breast specialist I saw told me I could not were ignored. Clearly I just didn't want to deal with the discomfort, and do I know how terrible it was for my newborn. Bitch. I filed a formal complaint with the executive office. I grew up in a bad family environment. And I learned to tolerate certain things as a coping mechanism, survival strategy. As an adolescent, I should have been more sensitive to those qualities in people and learned to avoid them. But instead I was especially tolerant as I had learned to be. And I surrounded myself with shitty people who took advantage of me. At some point I realized my friend group was toxic and started cutting them out one at a time. It was a slow and painful process. And it fucked me up to end those friendships even though they were bad for me. I had a lot of doubts. How could all my friends possibly be jerks? If I'm having conflicts with everyone I know, then obviously the problem is me. And not them, right? Well, turns out it was both. They were all jerks. Because I had chosen jerks to be friends with. In a lot of cases. My friends didn't even like each other. What a mess I made. As an adult it's a lot harder to make new friends. But I'm glad I eventually made those realizations and cut people off for my sake. I'm still lonely, especially in lockdown, but the people I do have in my life are a lot more supportive now. It turns out that when I'm not following a deeply ingrained path of self-destruction that I started on as a child, I'm actually a pretty good judge of character. I moved back to my reservation in my early 20s and I found it to be such a shitty place to live. Everyone knew everyone's business and like 90% of the people living there were alcoholics living off the welfare system. Someone died about once a month from drinking and driving on average. I worked with a young Native American lady. She was outgoing, personable and friendly with everyone. She worked hard to do well in life. She once told me that the other natives on the res would often call her an apple. Red on the outside, white on the inside. My heart broke for her. When I was in 6th grade, I tried to become one of the cool kids. And I was actually pretty much one of them for a while. But then I realized that about half of what we did was making fun of people. So I left the group at the end of the year. Overwatch. I love the gameplay, I really do. But when people start yelling at me for not getting a team kill or not picking the characters that they want, it ruins the game for me. Then they pick a troll character and say stupid shit like, okay, well, if you're throwing the game, then I'm going to throw too. Like, how do they expect new people to learn when everyone is held to such a high standard? Such a shame. That game is a lot of fun. All of the just no subreddits. Way too toxic for me. Funny enough, so was relationship_advice. Almost every post has red flags and strangers calling for you to leave your partner. Seeing as how I'm single and my mom passed away, I don't need that negativity anymore. I can't get over how most of the posts in the Just No Subs are written in such an annoying flowery prose with 5 paragraphs of setup before getting to the goddamn point. Back in 2010, I was big into the Muse fandom. Had to leave because holy shit are those people awful. I still love Muse, not their last album, but I don't associate with most of the fans. Same goes for Sherlock, which is the absolute worst fandom. It is just awful. Honestly, all of Reddit. Too much Reddit made me very unhappy and angry with the world. I moderate my usage of this website now. People are nicer in real life. Blink 182 subreddit. Don't know if it's gotten better. Similar story, similar forum, but this happened probably 15 to 18 years ago. Was part of a forum and the moderators were the worst. They would target users and just gang up on them. I was in college and had posted a question about some schoolwork and someone responded with the correct answer. I directly messaged him thanking him for his help. Next thing I know, the moderators started harassing me in the post for not thanking him publicly. Long story short, I left. I actually logged back in 5 years after leaving and found out the moderators had gotten into my account and had been posting stuff under my username trashing other users on the forum. The cringe community. Apparently, people just can't have fun over there without at least one use of the word cringe being thrown in there. I think the YouTube community was really nice once it developed. I'd say around 2010. But with more population there comes more hate-driven people. It was nice for a while. Everyone talks about the old YouTube days. Everything was perfect. Everyone was monetized and everyone was friends. And by everyone I mean pretty much everyone. That sense of community. Some creators literally knew your name. They were all friends with each other. VidCon was new. Created by Hank Green, who everyone knew. It was all family, but of course, the platform expanded. I'm some great ways, and in some bad ways. The days of everyone being friends and that sense of family was gone. I still love YouTube. I think it is something ahead of its time, including all of its faults. I think it's going to live for a while longer. But that sense of love and community was crushed. And I don't think it will ever happen again. This may piss some people, but I like Steven Universe a lot. The thing is, I once entered the fandom and I regret entering. For watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.